welcome back to our Storytime with Dad Booker. I appreciate you coming here, visiting with me. Today we're going to continue on with Mystery in My Pocket, the stories of Hattie and Harry and Oliver. And this time they're going to be in, Oliver and Harry are going to be in Team Spirit in Korea. So I don't know if you know, but Team Spirit used to be something that went on every year in South Korea and was just basically an exercise. We'd build a base and then everybody would exercise as if this was, real world, being out in the field, doing an advanced or forward operating base. So it was an interesting time. Not everything was on base. Sometimes you get a chance to go into town, Punsan or wherever, and visit with the locals, the people that live there, and try some food. That was just fantastic. So I got the idea for this story and sent Harry and Oliver there. So let's see where we go. OSI agents Harry, Oliver, and Rudy stepped off the C-130 with the rest of the 250 troops that were representatives of services squadrons from all over. Waiting for the buses on the tarmac, they discovered that Korea at this time of the year was cold and wet. Harry pulled the hood over his poncho and stomped his feet to get warm. They were here for part of an exercise called Team Spirit. Services was there to build the base, to build a deployment base from scratch. South Korea was known to be party central in certain areas, so it promised to be an interesting deployment. Everyone boarded the buses to go to the bare bone site in Punsan. The bus pulled into a large section that was gated off and full of mud, rocks, and small patches of grass. It was barren except for the large green wooden chests strewn all over. These contained the tents they would live in for the duration of their stay, as well as being used for offices and kitchen dining areas. It was a case of hit the ground running, and the OSI team spent the next few hours setting up their tent and office. For this exercise, 3 agents had been sent: Oliver, Harry, and Rudy. Rudy was from Scott Air Force Base, while Harry and Oliver were from RAF Mildenhall, UK. Rudy was a cocksure new troop who was dead sure he knew everything. "I newbies always do," Oliver responded to Harry, pointing this out. As senior member, he was in charge of his small group. They divided the tent. Back half were sleeping, and the front as their office. Harry opened up the case that held their desk and files, while Oliver went to the command post to check them in. It amused Harry to set up the desk. The case held the desk and was part shelving unit. The desk was a piece of plastic fitted into the slot. Sorry, excuse me. I forgot I had my coffee on. The case that held the desk was part shelving unit. The desk was a piece of plastic that fit into a slot with legs that folded down. The file cabinet was half of the other part of the case and was rolled out, and the chairs set up. Harry loved the simplicity and design of the desk. Rudy was unimpressed by the field desk and was anxious to find out what their task would be. Oliver returned with an interesting assignment. They were to go down to T Street and look over the whorehouses and determine which should be placed off limits. Oliver was apologetic as he read the note. "I know this is a disappointment for you guys, but we can't turn down a job just because it's dirty." Harry grimaced at Rudy's excitement. They changed into comfortable clothes and jumped onto the bus for town. Doing a walk up and down T Street was not much entertainment when you're doing an inspection. Most of the places had certifications on the bar girls, ensuring they were free of STDs. The ones that didn't were marked off as off limits. Rudy was disappointed they weren't going to inspect further, but Oliver promised Rudy he'd have plenty of time to do his own inspection later. They stopped at a place called Fool's Rush Inn for a quick meal. Harry ordered rice, dojang jjigae. I apologize if I screw these up. I haven't done Korean in a long time. which was a type of stew, and kimchi. Our settled for rice and budae jjigae, Korean army stew, and Rudy just wanted Daejeon or Korean pancakes. This place had females who acted as companions, but were not the type who, well, you know. Harry and Albert bought some drinks for the girls while Rudy sat at a separate table and bought his companion some drinks. We ran out of money and approached Harry for a loan. I just need $20 for more drinks. She really likes me. He refused to make a loan, stating, Rudy, if she really liked you, you wouldn't need the 20. After lunch, they went back to camp and helped putting up the kitchen tent and walked around eating wherever they could. Their part of the exercise was information gathering and analysis, and that wouldn't start until tomorrow. In the meantime, Rudy went back off base with a promise to be back in a couple of hours. Harry and Albert went over plans for the next day and night. Duty shifts at night would be slow, so they placed Rudy on that. It's a little unfair to stick the new guy on nights, don't you think? Harry asked. Albert called out, Hey, Rudy, you against taking the night shift? He waited for a response. Don't seem to care one way or the other. And made the rest of the schedule up. When 3 o'clock rolled around and Rudy hadn't returned, Albert was perturbed. He's probably doing a close-up inspection at one of the pleasure palaces. Harry had to attend a tabletop at the CC in half an hour. Go downtown, locate him, and haul his ass back here. Harry shrugged into a jacket and hopped on the bus. All the way into town, he worked out how the hell he was supposed to find Rudy, short of knocking on every damn door. Tourists. Harry skirted around the stalls and followed the river the 3 blocks to T Street. The restaurant they had eaten at earlier was still open. It was at the entrance to T Street, and from there you could see everything. Being a closed street made it convenient for searching. All up and down were kiosks where you could change money. Harry approached each and asked about a friend of his. Up one side and down the next, he found the right one near the beginning, opposite the first he tried. Yeah, I remember him. He changed $200. He's going to have big time. The man said it with him, but something in the man's eyes caught Harry's attention. There was more than laughter there. Without turning his head, Harry looked to the side and saw the money changers' eyes were cast towards a jeepney. These little motorized trikes were everywhere, ferrying passengers all over. A tap on his back made him swing round. The young lady who had tapped him jumped back quickly. Harry had a good memory for faces, and hers was one he wouldn't forget. She had been Rudy's companion earlier. I me drink? She said it differently than he had heard it earlier. There was urgency in her voice that ensured his attention. He took her to Fool's Rush Inn and bought them both a drink. He was amused to notice that while his was normal scotch and soda, hers was pretty much colored water. She sat close to him and practically whispered in his ear, I saw your friend when he came back. We exchanged a lot of money. The light on top of the changing booth changed to flashing. Harry could guess the rest. An offer to take him to a place off the street where the girls were better was a good inducement to trap Rudy. Can you give me an idea of what direction they went? She drew a map on a napkin. She added some identifiers of the jeepney so if it was still outside the spot, he'd recognize it. He reached back into his pocket to tip her, but she stayed his hand. No, he was a nice person. I just want to make sure he's okay. He recognized that she was a good person, just in a bad position. He thanked her for the information and found a driver he felt he could trust. There wasn't much to go on, so he had to go with his gut. He gave directions on the map he held. It took him part ways, then he had to eyeball trying to find the jeepney she had described. They were doing a circuit, going wider each time, but in 10 minutes, Harry spied the jeepney. Harry paid the man with a generous said the driver. If you're not out in 15 minutes, I'll come in. Harry grinned. He had guessed right, and this guy had his back. A surreptitious glance through through a tear in a drawn blind showed Rudy playing cards. From the glance, he saw that Rudy had a small stack of chips. The other man's was very large. Rudy had been losing steadily. Harry understood the situation. Rudy had been inveigled into taking the taxi, brought to this location, and then induced to play cards whereby he would be stripped of his money in such a way that it wasn't exactly theft. Rudy's face was dripping sweat, and with his money almost gone, he wasn't sure what would happen next. Would they try and find more, hold him for ransom, or worse? Harry knocked, and when his knock was unanswered, he tried the door. With a lock that was no security. Working quietly with a thin metal card, he had the door open in moments. A forceful shove, and he rolled into the room and stood upright in a corner. The man at the door whipped out a knife, but the man at the table raised his hand, and the knife was sheathed. The man at the table indicated a chair. Harry shook his head no. I'm sure my friend here has enjoyed his game of poker, but I'm afraid he must be leaving. The man at the door locked him more securely. Rudy was still scared, but with backup, he regained a little of his composure. The man at the door was standing with his arm crossed, leaning back. Harry could see the gleam of brass knuckles and understood. Reaching into his pocket, he wrapped his fingers around a roll of quarters. Added weight meant a more devastating punch. Rudy might have been inexperienced, but he wasn't stupid, just naive. He backed into a corner as well. Harry looked relaxed as he kept both men in his line of vision. Gentlemen, we have enjoyed your company, but we must take our leave. Now, how we go about this is up to you. The man at the door straightened, and the man behind the table pushed it aside. There was no doubt how this was going down. The man at the door was tall and muscular, but slow. The man at the table was faster, but he was unarmed. The tall man lunged and swung for Harry's face. Harry had been expecting that and wheeled out of harm's way. He brought a weighted fist down on the outstretched arm. Grasping the man by the neck, he threw him to the corner and he had vacated. And kicked at the man's knees, punched at the throat. It was a surprisingly quiet fight, with grunts and the sound of well-aimed punches. Rudy may not have been a seasoned fighter, but he had good training. He had his man down and tied with his own belt. Harry went for another swift strike, wheeling to increase the force of the punch, and his man went down. The floor was littered with quarters as the wrapping broke with the force of Harry's thrust. Harry opened the door, and the jeepney driver waved them inside. He sped away, bringing them eventually to the border of T Street. All the way, he spoke to Rudy about the danger of months of money at a single changer. You do a little at a few of them. Take your time and don't do it all at once. He gave a lecture to Rudy that Rudy wouldn't forget. When they arrived safe, Harry paid again and bought their driver dinner. On the bus, Rudy apologized for letting his enthusiasm get the better of him. You're new to the game and we're paying attention to the briefing. He grinned at Rudy. Poor kid. His first experience in Korea was to be shanghaied and to lose a couple of weeks' wages. Back on base, Rudy was instructed as to their mission and working conditions. He was going to complain about working the night shift, but a look at Harry, and he decided the night shift was just the shift he wanted. That evening, Rudy held the fort while Harry and Oliver did some sightseeing. Walking along the river, they bought some food from the street vendors. The pancakes filled with vegetables were very good. The side of kimchi was a perfect accompaniment. Desiring something for dessert, they approached a vendor who was selling something that looked like fish-shaped donuts. Harry shrugged off the unusual shape, but Oliver decided to wait and see how Harry enjoyed it first. That bite had contained fish, fried batter, and inside a large collection of fish eggs. Harry immediately dropped it and spat out the rest. Oliver was laughing at the startled look on Harry's face. Wandering around the stalls and shops, they picked up a mink blanket each, and Harry bought Maddie a robe with a dragon embroidered on the back. Oliver was entranced by a cheap plastic pocket watch that was also a lighter. Arriving back to base, I checked in with Rudy and went to bed. Tomorrow promised to be a busy day. All right, that is it. Now, the next ones in the book are not the Harry Prentice story, but the Rocky Stone stories. And I am not going to read those. Those are going to be included in the next book I'm writing. I'm going to add a whole bunch more. There's only like 2 in here. So I'm doing a whole series of Rocky Stone, who starts out as a reporter, becoming a deputy for Sheriff Morgan. Now, the setting is set in, think of Mayberry, where all town thing, but gradually the real world intrudes and kind of changes things up. There's Rocky and another gentleman that's the cast, I guess, are both Vietnam veterans, which during that time that this and people, if you remember, were having a hard time when they came back from Vietnam. They were treated very badly. So having that happen, they came to this town, which treats people a little better. Most people are there just look at people as folks. So it's a better place for somebody like that has PTSD as well as other problems. And I may read a couple of chapters in this when we start, after I get done reading this. So give me 1 minute. I want to show you the next book we'll be reading from. About this, I'm going to be reading not from my books for a while, but we're going to start with this one, and then I've got about 3 more books that I'll be doing. And I think Ian said that I might be able to read from his. Or he's John Mason is the name of his pen name. Sorry, shouldn't divulge it. But the John Mason novels are all about the gradual person that over in England who starts as a cadet and works his way all the way up through the police force. He's got, I think, 5 or 6 right now. His website is very informative and really good. He's got a free book on there, so look up John Mason and Loving of Brian Blake, and there's a few other ones, but he's got the initial story is free, so you can read a little bit about the I guess you call it a prelude or something about Brian's father. And I'm thrilled that he's got these out finally, because it's been a while before to get them. This is the book we're going to be reading from next. It's The Ledge of Creation by Steve Wolf, The Tour de Ledge. It's a bunch of bike riders who are totally unique. Like, one's a chef that can make sandwiches and all sorts of stuff on his bicycle. One thinks he's a werewolf, and the adventures on the Ledge of Creation are hysterical. And I am so glad we're going to read about a good 4 or 5 chapters on this, get it going, and I hope you enjoy it as well as I do. It's available on Amazon, so I love that I get to do this. This is going to be so much fun. I look forward to seeing you again. Today is Wednesday, so probably Thursday or Friday we'll start this and do our 5 chapters. And then I think I'm going to be doing, give me a minute. Which one? I'll let you know when we get done with this one, who we'll be reading next. But I've got a few friends that I have met on LinkedIn who are authors and who have graciously allowed me to read their books before. We're redoing some of them and doing a better job, because when I started doing them, I was brand new to this, and I don't think they were as good as they could be. So I look forward to seeing you on our next video. Thank you for visiting. Please leave comments. Let me know that you're out there. And you all have a good day. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. We'll see you again. Bye.